Being a Kid. Ugh. Read by the author, Tracy R.L. O'Flaherty. Chapter 12. Choose Love. In the land of confusion, there is clarity. In the upset, there is peace. In the growing, there is withering. How does it all work? A childhood into adulthood, the losses and the sorrows, the victories and the gains. How does it work, this thing called life? When do we realize of our choices? When do we realize that we choose? We can choose to see the good in others or not. We can choose to see the beauty or not. And what is beauty? Who sets the bar for beauty? Mother Earth shares extraordinary beauty, and at times we don't see it. We take for granted the sun shining and the moon glowing. We take for granted that the next day will be granted. We take for granted the stars in the knowing they are there. We wish when we want to wish, and we look up when we want to look up. So often we look down. So often we see our footsteps and not our strides. We tend to look at our feet, and instead of gratitude in each step, we feel the challenges and the hurdles. We walk with less dignity and hope than we are able to see. Where are we looking? Where are we looking? Are we looking for upset because that is what we know to be? Are we looking for peace because we know upset? Are we looking for improvement because we feel less than we should? What are we looking for? As children, it can be so easy. As children, forgiveness is easily granted. A do-over sometimes is all that is needed. A time-out at times is all that is needed. Sometimes kindness and compassion is all that is needed. Where does it go? How do we forget to choose forgiveness? How do we stop being kind? What happens to us when we are not kind? What happens that brings it forward? Is it something from childhood, or is it something just from the moment? We used to ride our bikes down to the little village. The village just had houses at the time I was growing up. But at one time, the village did flourish. In fact, the old large shed on our property was once the general store. My great-grandfather had the first gas pumps in our little town. And I did mention that the village had an annual country fair. This fair is over 100 years old. My ancestors went to the fair. I went to the fair. Isn't that fascinating? That generation after generation got to go to the annual fair. Imagine the changes. Imagine the changes in all things, from horse and buggy to fast cars. Imagine the annual country fair still is held this day. There are many small country fairs in the area in which I live, each being decades old. So many holding the space of well over 120 years. Imagine who walked the grounds. Imagine who fell in love at the fair. Imagine every apple pie that was shared. Just imagine. So, here I am at the small fair, wondering who else would be there. It was a time when people came from miles around. I didn't fall in love at the fair, but I did fall in love with childhood at the fair. Everything seemed so big and wonderful. Rides and cotton candy, people being happy, music played and people dancing, horses and cattle, old cars to be shown, and years of marriage to be known. For who fell in love at the country fair? The innocence of youth. When do we let go of the innocence of youth? Is it when the innocent get hurt? Is it when life hands us a bad hand? When do we lose ourselves in the seriousness of life? Oh yeah, when we were told not to be immature. When we were told to grow up, to smarten up, to become, to make our parents proud and the community proud. When do we lose our innocence? How do we get it back in the understanding that nothing feels as innocent as the day we once were? Hand-me-down clothes. Ugh. I had my share with 2 older sisters and neighbors. Hand-me-downs can be a funny, funny thing. At one time, I couldn't wait to wear my sister's clothing. I couldn't wait to fit into it. I couldn't wait to grow so I could wear her coat or the old sweater. And then a day came when all things looked different. When being handed hand-me-down clothes made me feel awful. I knew that it wasn't because it was. I knew I was being handed hand-me-down clothing because of lack of money. I started to know the feeling of lack. Clothes that at one time would make me so happy became the reminder of lack. My friends didn't have hand-me-down clothing. They had new clothes. My friends didn't go to the church basement for a bargain of second-hand clothing. They could go to the store. Funny how things in perception changes perception. Funny how something could be looked at with such beauty and the same thing can become ugly. How does it work? My sisters and I shared many things. We shared the same home, the same family dog, the same parents, the same dinners. We shared, period. And to this very day we share. I can only hope that I will get a hand-me-down. I can only hope to feel the innocence that was once felt. The fair was a time that I knew I was home. I knew of home. I knew the value of home. Perception is a unique and wonderful thing to bend. Why was I content at home when my mom was aching to leave? Why did I find peace in the walls and my mom only felt the desire to escape? Is it perception? Is it years unfolding as an adult, as a disappointed adult? For don't we all want to search for something more than anything less? Don't we all want to be all we are meant to be? And some feel shackled to their life, while others only feel freedom. How does it work? Why does it work? And does it all work? The disappointments can be so traumatic as a child. Being disappointed can bring great burdens of hope. Being disappointed as an adult, what makes anyone disappointed in any one thing? What one person perceives as disappointment, another can see it as a victory. Isn't that fascinating? To win the race, to endure the race, to race the race. Where is the finish line? Where are we all going? Where is the finish line? And why does it get moved whence we are only a foot away? Who sets the bar? Who moves the bar? Who fell in love at the country fair? Who falls in love at all? Perhaps this is a good place to start.